Shuffle the cards and hand them out one by one until each player has 10 face-down cards. Players then arrange their cards into a 5x2 grid. Player 1 draws a 5 card and places it into the corresponding space of their grid like so. The 2 card is revealed and goes into the corresponding grid space. Then the 4 card is revealed and the same sequence continues until no more cards can be replaced. Now player 2 has the option of picking up the 4 from the discard pile or drawing a card from the deck. They pick up the 1 card from the deck and repeat the process of replacing their face-down cards just like player 1 did. Note that players can only pick up numbered cards from the top of the discard pile, not power cards. Now let's introduce power cards. Player 1 draws a wild card which counts as any numbered card and can replace any type of card in the grid. This is the most powerful card in the game. Player 2 cannot pick up the 7 because they already have it, so they have to draw from the deck. It's a swap and steal card, which allows a player to replace and steal any card from another player's grid. Note that a player can replace and steal a face-down card in another player's grid or even replace a face-down card in their own grid. Player 1 draws a switch card, which allows players to switch the positions of any 2 cards in another player's grid or their own grid. The switch card is discarded after it is used. A reminder that you cannot pick up power cards from the discard pile. A draw 2 card is picked up from the deck. This allows players to pick up 2 cards from the main deck. It is discarded once used. A peek card and a recycle card have been drawn. The peek card is put aside while the recycle card is being used. You could use the peek card first instead if you wanted to do so. The recycle card allows a player to replace and use any single card in the discard pile. This includes any of the other power cards. Player 2 recycles the draw 2 card, allowing them to draw an additional 2 cards on their turn. They already have the 7 card in their grid, but they do not have the 9 card. Now the peek card is played. It allows a player to look at their face-down cards once, or look at another player's face-down cards once instead. Once you have looked at all of the face-down cards, you can flip over and leave one of them face up, but you don't have to do this. When a player completes their grid, they do not win immediately. Instead, all other players have one more turn left to try and break the winning player's grid. They can do this by swapping, stealing, and or switching around cards in the winning player's grid, therefore making it incorrectly ordered. If nobody can break the winning player's grid, that player wins the game, otherwise the game continues as normal. When multiple players have a complete grid, the game ends when player returns to the first player who completed their grid. In this case, all players with a complete grid win the game. If the first winning player's grid is broken, then the second player who completed their grid wins when player returns to them and vice versa for the third, fourth or fifth player with a completed grid. Note that you do not have to use the power cards and may discard them if you want to. When the deck runs out of cards, the discard pile becomes the new deck and is shuffled. All recycled cards in the discard pile must be removed and excluded for the rest of the game. Lastly, players cannot hold on to their cards. They must discard their cards from their hand at the end of their turn.